Now, in today's app building tutorial, we're going to be building a real app using FlutterFlow in the front end and Supabase in the back end. Now, this particular type of app that we're going to be building is not an overly complex app, but it's an app that's very, very popular. And no doubt you've seen this type of app before, and you've probably used it as well. Now, the star of today's video is going to be Supabase, because throughout the course of the video, I'm going to be showing you some amazing techniques that you can use Supabase in conjunction with FlutterFlow to build amazing functionality that seems very complex and very difficult and tricky to do at first. But thanks to Supabase, you can easily achieve this and more. And it's truly no code. Okay. All of this can be done automatically without coding, without struggling. And you can have some incredible functionality that a lot of people thought is actually very, very difficult to do, and probably yourself, but it's actually a lot simpler than you think. And so definitely watch the whole tutorial from the beginning to end, and let me know in the comments below what you think, if you have any questions, and what kind of app should I build next. Now, before we get started, as always, all the apps that I built on this channel, including this one, can be viewed and or cloned when you join our amazing Patreon community. And that's not all. You also get lots and lots of other benefits. And so if you're serious about no code and you want to take your no code knowledge to the next level, click the first link in the description below this video, check out our amazing Patreon community, and become a member. You'll be glad you did. All right, so the app that we're going to be building is going to be a habit tracker. Okay, and so these apps are very, very popular. A lot of people really like them. I actually use a similar app to kind of track my own habits. And so I went ahead and I downloaded some screenshots from a random popular app that I found just to show you how we're going to be building this app. Okay, and so the idea is fairly simple. Okay, but there's going to be a lot of interesting kind of complex things happening in the background. Okay, and so what's going to happen is the user is going to create a habit here. They're going to go through this little flow here. They're going to decide what kind of habit it is. What are they trying to do? Are they trying to read, meditate, work out? They're going to specify a little bit about the habit. They're going to maybe define the smallest unit, right? So because reading, for instance, right, what are we reading? Are we reading a whole book in one sitting? Are we, do we want to, force ourselves to read, 30 minutes, etc., etc.? And then what's going to happen? The habit is going to appear here. And as you can see, they can mark off the habit. Okay. And so let's say, we're going to be seeing the days here, and we are going to display, let's say, maybe last 7 days, as is the case here. Yeah, last 7 days. And they can see, if they completed the habit or not. Okay, and they can add multiple habits and things like that. Now, what's really cool about this app here is we are going to be tracking streaks. Okay, so what is a streak? Well, if you do a habit like 3 days in a row, you have a 3-day streak. If you do it for 10 days in a row, you have a 10-day streak. But it has to be in a row. So if I do it for like 3 days, I skip a day, and then I do it for 3 more days, that's not a 6-day streak. That the moment I skip, I lose my streak. I don't have a streak anymore. Okay. And so this way, we kind of have that built-in, gamification here. And we're also going to be defining these rewards, right? So these milestones or rewards or whatever you want to call it. And so as an example, let's say we have a drink of water habit, right? So we have three times in a row, that's a 3-day streak, 5 times, 7 times, etc. So you can define the various rewards, the various milestones that you're going to, you're going to be striving to kind of complete. And we're also going to have push notifications. We're going to have some interesting things, right? So in a nutshell, the user adds a habit, defining the frequency. As the user completes the habit, we track times and or streaks. And by the way, We can also track times, right? So as an example here, it's showing the streak, right? That's 2 days in a row. But if you don't really care about streaks, you just care about times, right? So you don't care that you've done it every single day. You just care that you've done it X amount of times. You can track it that way as well. So I believe if you click on this thing here, it flips over and it becomes just the number of times. So we're going to implement that as well. Okay. And so if a particular streak is reached, that's going to be detected using Supabase trigger or function and function actually. And we're going to show a push notification and we're going to mark the reward reach, right? So we're going to mark one of these rewards. As you can see, there are different colors here. And then the user can see all their habits on the homepage. And if we scroll down, here's our Supabase schema, right? Fairly simple. We have the users, but this is a built-in table when you're doing authentication with Supabase. So we're not going to be creating it. We're going to be linking to this table. We have the habits table that's going to be listing all the habits the user is doing. Here we have the habit entries, where we're going to be tracking all the times the user has completed a particular habit. Next, we have the streaks, where we're going to be tracking the various streaks. So if they've done something for 5 days in a row, that's a 5-day streak. And we're going to be storing the milestones, right? Essentially, these rewards, milestones, same thing here. Okay. And so this is a kind of app that's not super complex, but yet it's a very, very popular app. It's like a to-do app, right? There's so many to-do apps because there's just a lot of demand for these kinds of apps. Okay. And what's cool about this app to compare it with a to-do app is fairly simple. Whereas this app, we are going to be implementing some very, very interesting and innovative kind of features and functionality to track the habits, to track the streaks, and stuff like that you might not have seen before. So this is going to be a great exercise, and stay tuned for that. And so this is going to be an awesome tutorial to show you how to build one of the more popular genre of apps and you're going to learn a ton of new ways, new techniques in this tutorial. Now, the next thing that we want to do is we want to set up our Supabase schema. So here I am logged into my Supabase account. You are seeing some of my projects here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a brand new project for this app that we're building. So this app is a habits app. I'm just going to say habits app here. For the password, I'm just going to use this randomly generated password, and we're going to choose whatever is more convenient for us. Let's say create new project. It's going to go ahead and create our new Supabase project right here. And it's still creating it, as you can see right here. So we need to wait a couple of moments. All right. And here's our new Supabase project. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to create the tables. Okay. And so I'm going to come right here and I'm going to start creating my tables. Now I already went ahead and created a rough kind of draft of the table. So we're going to have the users table, but that's built in. But the main tables that we want to be setting up here are these three tables: the habits, habit entries, and the milestones. And we'll see, maybe we'll add some more tables later. And so for this habits table, we need user ID, which is going to link to that users table, name, description, and created at. Okay, so I'm going to say, what is this called? Habits. And I'm going to start off with this user ID. And this is going to be a link, right? It's going to have a foreign key, and you want to select auth, and you want to select users, and you want to select the ID in this table, right? We care about the ID, and that's automatically going to set up our the column type as well. So this is really useful. That's why you want to do it, because the column type can be UUID, it can be, just ID, it can be all kinds of things. So you can't really guess it, right? It could be int 8, it could be anything. So that's why linking it is very powerful. Next, we need name, description, and created that we already have. So just name, description. So I'm going to go in here, and I like to do a lot of these just text. Right, so if it's text, we can just do text, and that's it. I'm going to hit save, and now it's creating this table right here. Okay, and we'll do the same for these habits entries. and milestones. Let's go ahead and do habits entries, habit entries, singular. And what do we need to do? We need entry date, completed and created at. Okay. So we really need, well, yeah, let's do entry date and completed. Okay. So entry date, this is going to be a timestamp and created at. And it's the other one completed. This is a boolean. Go ahead and hit save because we already have created that. And last but not least, we have this one. So this is what we need. Milestone date, habit ID, and milestone date, type, and description. So we're gonna say, what is this? Milestones, and we're gonna do habit ID, milestone date, type, description, milestone type, and that's it. So this is going to be our link to habits ID, and this is milestone date. It's just gonna be this one. Yeah, calendar date is fine. We don't really need time there. Milestone type is just text. It's free form, and the description is just free form as well. And there we have it. Okay. Okay. So it's adding it now. All right. So now we have 3 tables, but we're not done yet. By default, Supabase has something what's called RLS policies. Okay. And so it says here, when you hover over, it says RLS is enabled for this table, but no policies are set. Select queries may return 0 results. And so by default, you have RLS enabled, but we don't have any policies. So we won't be able to access this data. We won't be able to read or write or anything. So we're going to click here, and we're just going to add one policy, which is just the default policy, right? All. And we'll fix it later if we need to. So all, this is going to be true. This is going to be true. Okay, that's it. Save policy. And we're going to do that for the other tables as well. And we can do that by coming in here, create policy all. We'll call it all, and true here, and save policy. And last one, true. All right, there you have it. So now we have our tables and we have the policies, and we are going to add a couple of interesting things here a little bit later. But right now, I want to jump into FlutterFlow, and I want to start kind of setting up our app and connecting it to this Supabase project. All right, so here I am inside of FlutterFlow, and I went ahead and I created an app here. So this is a blank app. There's nothing here. And the next thing that we want to do is we want to configure Supabase. So I'm going to search for Supabase. I'm going to enable it, and I need the API URL and the anon key. So I'm going to go to my Supabase here, and I'm going to click on project settings, and I want to click on API, and I'm going to copy the URL here, and I'm going to copy the anon key here. I'm going to say get schema, and I'm going to see these 3 tables here. And so now we are accessing the tables. We're seeing the data. And that means we can manipulate it inside of our app here. Now, once I've configured my Supabase and I have my app here, what I want to do now is I'd like to create some sample data, seed this database, so that when I start building my app, I at least see some, some data appearing, so I can kind of see how it looks. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to seed it with, a couple of records for each. Okay, so let's say habits. We're going to create 2 habits. We're going to insert a row, and now we need to assign it to a user ID. And so first, what we want to do is we want to see if we have any users in there, and we probably don't. No users in the project. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a user. And you want to say auto confirm the user. So I'm going to type james@james.com here, and I'm going to just create a password that I know. We're going to create the user. Now, once I create the user, you're going to be seeing it here, but you're also going to be seeing this user right here. So if we come here and you go into auth and you go into users, you're going to see the user in the database, which is what you really care about. And so now if I come back here, come back to our public schema, and let's say I want to create a new habit. Well, I now can assign a specific user to this record. So we're going to insert a row, and I'm going to click here, and I'm going to select the only user we have, name. This is the name of the habit. So let's say, I don't know, running. And so this is run every day for 2 miles. something like this. Okay, we're gonna hit save. That's the first habit, where I want to run. And let's say I want to add another habit assigned to me, and this is reading. And let's say read every day for 30 minutes. Okay, hit save. And now we should have two habits here. Okay, next we can create some habit entries. Okay, so just to show that we've been doing it. Okay, so we're gonna insert a row, and the entry date, well, we have the entry date set up. This is automatically applied. And let's say it's true. Okay, so today we've completed a habit. And did we forget the actual habit ID? Did I do that? Yeah, I forgot the habit ID. Okay. Let me double check. Yeah, I don't have habit ID, so I need the habit ID. I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna add a habit ID over here. And this is gonna be a foreign key to the habits here. And this is gonna be ID. Okay, right here. And everything is set up. So we're gonna say save. And now we have this habit over here. We can also place it right here. And now we can insert our habits. Okay, so this is automatic. This is filled in by default. And I'm gonna say true. And this is going to be our running. So let's say I ran today. I'm gonna hit save. And I'm also gonna add another row. And it's completed, and let's say it's also running, and let's say I ran yesterday. So I'm gonna come here and I'm gonna change this to yesterday. Okay, I'm gonna hit save. So now we have two records, and why is this? This should be, let me fix this right here. Let's put it like this. All right, so now we have two records, and therefore that one habit, that same habit, which is running. Okay, so I ran yesterday, I ran today. So we should have a streak of 2. Okay, and so this is good. This is good enough. Let's do milestones as well. Insert a row, habit ID, let's say for running, we have a milestone. And that is, let's say, ran 3 days in a row or something like this. Ran 3 days in a row. Now, actually looking at this, I think for milestone type, the way we want to set it up is you want to specify the streak. So let's say 3 days, then it would be something like this, 3D. And that means that if we have a streak of 3 days, this is automatically going to be triggered because the system is going to trigger it. If you want something like, that you've done it at least once a week for 3 weeks, you can have something like this, or 3 months, something like this. So let's say this is a 3-day in a row milestone. So that's what we're going to specify here. I'm going to save that. Okay. And let's say we create another milestone for 7 days for that same habit. So I'm going to select running here and I'm going to say 7D and, ran 7 days in a row. And we're going to go ahead and save it. And now we have two records that specify specific milestones. So we have the 3D, 3 days in a row, 7 days in a row, and we can create another one. So let's say we also want, let's say 30 days, right? 30 days in a row, which is a serious milestone, right? Ran for 30 days in a row. Okay, that's pretty impressive. Okay, so let's go ahead and save that. And so now we have 3 milestones, 3 days in a row, 7 days in a row, 30 days in a row. And that's going to motivate us or our users with the fact that they've achieved a specific goal. Okay, so at this point we have 2 habits, we have 2 habit entries, and we have 3 milestones for this specific habit. And once we start building the app, it's going to be a lot easier to start displaying this data as well as manipulating this data. All right, so the next thing that I want to work on is the main screen here. So if you take a look at these screenshots here, we are going to be displaying the habits. Okay, so here we have the create habit flow, and here I want to display the habits that are created, that the user is going to be tracked. So as an example, here we have the first habit, read, and there's a lot of things happening here, right? So we're displaying the streak here, which we'll need to calculate dynamically. And we have the name of the habit, we have the specific unit, if you will, that they need to complete as part of the habit, that we're also going to be storing, right? This unit right here, right? Define a smallest unit, right? We have the smallest unit here. And then we are going to be displaying whether they have done it. And here it's kind of displaying us the last, what, week. Okay, so the last 7 days, and it's displaying us whether it was completed in, any of those 7 days or all of those 7 days or, in none of those 7 days. Okay. So let's go ahead and display this first, and then we'll work on, some of the, the actions, the interactions here. And we also need to have this as well. Basically, we're going to be doing it. We're going to take the current date and we're going to put it last, and then we're going to count backwards, right? So we're going to display the last 7 days from this current date there. Okay. And we're going to display the current month as well. Okay. So let's get started with this. Now, if you recall, we already have some habits defined, which is nice because we can start building the app. We can start displaying them, working on the UI. All right. And so let's go ahead and do that right now. So this thing here is a card, right? It's a card, and it has a background color, and then it has, well, it has two rows, right? Row 1, row 2, and then inside this row there are two columns, and here there are two columns, and then this thing has two columns as well, right? You have two columns, 1 and 2, as part of the row, and then here you have another column just below it. All right, so let's get started with this and see what we can do. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna do a list view here, and I'm gonna put a card. Can we do a background color? Yeah, we can. And I'm gonna do a padding on this. I'm gonna do a 10. This probably has a little bit more, but it's good enough. And let's go ahead and put, so we're gonna do 2 rows first, and then we're gonna fix it up. Okay, so I'm gonna say row, and then I'm gonna do another row, and I'm gonna wrap that in a column. Let's put that row there, wrap that in a column like this. So we have 2 rows, and then we in each individual row, we can, customize it to our needs. Okay, so what do we have here? So this first row is a count of the streak, and then followed by the days. Okay, so we're gonna put a column here, and we're gonna do another column. Okay, so something like this. The second column, we're going to expand it. We're going to do something like this. And the first column is going to have a text. Okay. And let's do a little bit of padding to make it nicer. And then the second column is going to display 7 units, 7 of these circles that, depending on if the habit was done or not, they're going to become a check mark. Okay. So it's always going to be 7. Okay. And so what this means is that we can simply display, 7, 7 units, 7 widgets, right? So for instance, this one here, we can simply do a kind of a list view if we want. And inside the list view, we can display whatever we want. So let's say we want to display an icon. I'm going to do an icon, and let's say this icon is going to be a search. So something like this. And obviously we can make it smaller, maybe 15. Okay, that maybe 20 or whatever. We'll get to it. And looking at this, the best way to kind of display these items is by creating a custom view that will give us the last 7 days, including today, so that we can immediately match it up against the date and see if we should display a check mark or a circle. And so that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to go ahead and create a custom view. Okay, so I'm going to use Supabase AI for this, and I'm going to say create a view that will display the last 7 habit entries, including today. And if there's no habit entry, the last 7 days for habit, in terms of 7 days habit entry, including today. And if there's no habit entry for the date, just display empty or null. Okay, and let's see if this works. Okay, so here we have our code here, and let's go and see. So we have last 7 habit entries. Okay, and now let's go ahead to into our table editor, and let's take a look at what's happening. Okay, so this is what we see, but it's null for everything. It should not be null for everything because we have some habit entries. We need to include also the habit ID, and we need to ignore this entry date. So this timestamp here, one thing that we can do is we can turn it into a date, because we don't really care about the time, right? And so what we can do is we can edit that column and make it into a date, because I don't really care. We have the time anyway. Okay, so it's being used by view. Let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and remove this view. I'm going to go ahead and delete this view. I'm going to redo it. So I'm going to say, drop. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this and I'm just going to come in here and I'm just going to execute it right here. Okay, so we've dropped that. Let's go back here. We don't have the view. And now let's go ahead and make this a date, because that's going to be easier to track, to kind of work with. Okay, let's go ahead and change that. So now it's successfully updated it. And now we just have an entry date. And so now I can come back here and I can say, create me. Let's go and try this. Create me a view, create the view that will display the habit IDs for the last 7 days, including today. And if there's a habit on that date, return yes. If not, return N. Okay, let's see if that works. All right, there we have it. Let's come over here. Okay, and let's see if that works. That's pretty complex. And we have an error. Let's see if we can fix this error right here. Accept change. Let's see if that works. Okay, so that had no issues. And what do we have? And looks like it's right. So we have the habit. Let's go ahead and sort it by this. I'm going to sort it by habit ID. And I'm also going to sort it by the entry date. So now we see, now it's sorted by the habit ID. Okay, we can even put it right here. And so we see that there it is, 1920. The habit was completed, but 21 today, it hasn't been completed yet. And that's for the first habit. And for the second habit, it wasn't completed at all. So this is perfect for us. We are doing the heavy lifting in this view, and we can use this view in our app for a lot of awesome things to save us a lot of time. So we're going to refresh our schema. We have this right here. And so now what I can do is I can come back over here and I can do a query here, right? I can do a backend query, Supabase query, 7 days. We're gonna do on this list. Okay, so we're not gonna work here. We're gonna do it straight from the Supabase. Come back here, habit, list of rows. We're gonna order them. Well, we're gonna filter them by the habit ID first, right? What is the habit ID? I'm just gonna do it by 1, just equal to, just for testing, because we're not even displaying the habits here. And then what we're gonna do is we are going to order them by entry date in decreasing order. Okay, so it's gonna start from today, because it automatically generates it from today, right? It's gonna start it from today. And what we want to do is we want to go back, okay? And it's exactly 7 days, right? Because that's what we asked it, from 21 to 15, 7 days for that. And we're going to get the values, right? Which is perfect, okay? It's a single time query. Well, actually, what we can do is we can automatically refresh it, right? If there's some kind of update underneath, we can do that. We're going to confirm, and we're going to change this list view to do horizontal. And so what we need to do is we need to give it a constraint here, right? Because this does not have a constraint. Okay, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap it in a container over here. Okay, so now we have a container, and I'm gonna give it a set width, and I'm gonna give it a set height, and I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna give it a horizontal. Okay, so now it's displaying horizontal, and it's gonna display all of these over here. Okay, and so this container, this column, we can do it left justified here. We can do that over here. So this is our list view here. In fact, we can just have it here, and it's gonna grow from there. And we can do some padding on this as well. We can do the padding on the row. Let's go ahead and do the padding, something like this, and also the padding on this row. Okay. And so now this is going to display it. And then for each item, depending on if it's yes or no, we can display the, circle or something else. So here, what we're going to do is we're going to say this is conditional. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace this widget, or I can just do conditional here, conditional builder. I'm going to replace this. And then we're gonna see, if this is if this is yes, we're gonna display the one widget. And what I'm gonna do here is I'm going to put the icon that I want to display depending on the condition. So we have this icon over here, and here I can specify it. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add another icon. Let's go ahead and do this, enable this, and this is gonna be another icon, just to simplify things. And so I'm going to come over here, I'm going to display this, and now I can have a condition. So the condition is going to be whatever I want it to be. So I'm just going to come over here, and this is this has habit, this column over here. So let's say this condition has habit is set to 1. And so here I'm going to come over here and I'm going to set this icon, and I want this icon to be a check. Okay, so something like this. Otherwise, I want this icon to be a circle, or I don't know, let's do a circle. Something like this. So now if we come to this conditional builder, we have 2 icons, and I can display this if it's not there, or I can display this. Okay, and we can actually run it, right? Because this is the first habit. In fact, I want to fix this padding. It's too much up on top. Sides are good, but this is not correct. So I'm going to fix this right here. And the bottom also. We want everything except the top. And let's take a look. What else do we need? So it's going to display the name and the unit. And then we have, I guess this is whether we want push notification or not. So this could be also useful. And so here I'm going to say, we're going to do column, and we're going to do another column. The second column is going to be expanded. The first column is going to be text and another text, and it's going to be the name and the unit. So this is going to be the name. Well, we're not pulling in the name, so I'm just going to put, and I'm just going to put 10 p. Okay, and the first one is it's going to be the streak. So we're going to calculate that later, but for now I'm just going to put 0 or like 2, whatever. Okay, so and this is going to be whether we want push notification for this habit or not, which is useful because we're going to be doing hopefully push notifications as well. So I'm going to do text. I'm going to align it to the left like this. Okay, it's starting to come together. And just to kind of make everything come together, let's also load the habits on this list view, since that is something we need to do anyway. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to say, and we're going to order them by the habit ID maybe, or, well, we need to filter them by the user ID first of all, right? We don't have authentication yet. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do it manually, just so that, that we have this in the system. So let's go ahead and find this user ID, our user ID. I'm just going to fetch it. So now we're only getting my habits, or the authenticated user. I'm just going to order them by the habit ID, habits by ID. And I'm just going to say ID increasing, and single time. I'm going to do not single time. Okay, so something like this. And now we can actually over here, we can actually get this filter from our habits. We're going to get it from this ID so that it's dynamic. All right. And now let's go ahead and run it and see the whole thing. All right. So this is what we get. We get 2 habits, but they're duplicates. Or no, they're not duplicates. It's just I'm basically displaying the same thing, and we need to fix it. So because we're getting live habits, let's go ahead and get the habit name, default value. And this is the unit. We don't have the unit, or in fact, description can be the unit. We just need to change it. We have this, and this is the notifications. We'll work on that in a little bit. We have our list view, and so this is getting the habit ID. Okay, so let's go ahead and see if that works, because we have 2 habits. This is all no, and these 2 are yes. And so we need to make sure that it is properly being displayed. Let's go ahead and rebuild that, see what happens. Okay, so it looks like it's duplicating the habit. Why is that? Let me see this. Habits. I have 2 habits. Double check this. User. Yeah, it should be 2 separate habits. Why is it habits row? That's right. No, it's correct. It's correct. Okay, so when we run the app, this is what we see. So we see running first, which is the first habit, and then reading followed by. Okay, so everything looks good, except this is not correct. These 2 should be here. Okay, so it's probably an issue with sorting. I think if I sort it correctly, it's going to work good. Let's do increasing, and reload this and see what happens. All right, and now it is correct. Okay, so today, this is today's date. We haven't marked it yet. But the day before, as you can see, habits entries, this one here, and you can see that this habit here today, there's nothing. And the day before, yes, the day before that, yes. So yesterday, yes, the day before, yes. And this is not correct. Okay, so for habit 2, running as habit 1. For habit 2, it's all no. Okay, so this needs to be fixed. Let me double check, see what's happening here. So it's filtering by habit ID, right? Habit ID, that is correct. And let me double check something. Let me see this thing here. Let's go ahead and display the habit ID just so that I know what I'm dealing with, so that I can see it. So it's not just a static number. So now we have this, we have that. So this query should be all zeros. Let's go see what's happening here. Filter habit ID. This ordering is correct because we are increasing it, right? We're displaying it here and we're increasing it. That is correct. This ID is not correct. I wonder why that is. We are getting it from this. That is correct. Huh, interesting. So if I change that, I like to change things. I like to put, let's say I put 2, and then it should not display any check marks at all now. Let's see if that works. Okay, so now it's using 2, which is this one, and it's all ends. Okay, so let's see why is that. Maybe it's caching it. Let me double check. So if I put ID here, and in fact, what I can do is I can also test it out. Let's go ahead and wrap it, I don't know, in a column just for testing. And then I can put some kind of text widget here, and let's just test it out. And I'm gonna put my ID. Okay, so I can see what I'm dealing. Let's go ahead and refresh that. All right, so the ID is correct, but for some reason this is not correct. Why is that? Habit ID is set to the ID. That is correct. Interesting. Okay, let me double check. Is it something here? Let me come over here. Has habit equals Y. This has habit is from where? It's this. Has habit ID is correct. Missing something very, very simple. Habit ID is equal to ID in the habits row from the list you query. Index and list. That's not what we want. We want ID. And so what's interesting here is right now it's not displaying it correctly. This should all be zeros. But if I come back here and I change this to a single time query, okay, and I reload this, it should work. This is what I get now. So I don't know if it's a little bug or some kind of a minor issue, but regardless, this now works. Okay, so we can delete this ID because we had that there. We don't really need that anymore. That was just for testing. We have this list view now. Okay, let's go ahead and see what else we have. So now we have this ID here, and what is that supposed to be? This is supposed to be the number of streaks. So we are going to be calculating it using triggers and Supabase functions. Okay, so we're going to be doing that. But right now, it works exactly as we wanted. In fact, let me go ahead and refresh it so you don't see those numbers there. Okay, so now that is what you're seeing. Let's go ahead and add a little bit of padding there so that it looks a little bit better. In fact, we can do it on the row level, which is something that we should have done because that's exactly what we want. And this list view, this container, remember we added the height, we can make it something like this. Go ahead and refresh that. Okay, and there you have it. So that looks pretty decent. We're gonna fix it up. In fact, I think, yeah, this should be left justified. Let's go ahead and fix this right now. This column, make it left justified, and this thing is right justified. Yep, this is left justified. Okay, we're gonna fix it up. We're gonna make it nicer. But really, the key here is this view that will get automatically calculated, right? So if you take a look at the definition, you can see that it looks at the current day, minus 6 days, which is exactly what we want. And so we don't have to do it in the app. That's the beauty of Supabase, is that you can create some awesome views that will pre-calculate things for you. And you don't have to do that. Of course, we need to add more stuff, but at least it is now left justified and it's starting to come together. Next, let's go ahead and add some of these other things that we need to have in the app. So I want to go ahead and add the days, right? So starting from today, going backwards a week, and also the month here, and, you know, fix it up a little bit so that it looks kind of how we want it to look. All right, so let's go back to our app over here. And what we want to do is we want to go on this column level and we want to add kind of a bar on top. So what we can do is we can add a row up here, bring that row right there just before the list view. Right, so like right there, okay? And we are gonna add some padding as usual. There's our padding, and we're gonna put the text. And what do we wanna do? Well, we wanted to have two columns again, because we wanna right justify this, left justify this. And in fact, yeah, let's do two columns here. That will make it really nice. Let's go ahead and duplicate that. I'm gonna expand this. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a list view here, and the same thing, right? We're gonna do a just list the items, right? So we're gonna be doing them horizontally. And what are we displaying? We're displaying, so here we're gonna be displaying the dates. And as you can see, it's kind of interesting. It's got the date and the day of the week. And so we have those dates. We can do that. So what we can do is we can have a column, and then what we can do is we can have text and another text. So something like this, and I want this to be right justified, okay? And this is going to be here. Perfect. Now, this list view, well, we have the data already, right? So what we can do is we can come over here, come back here, and we can just copy this, and we can go to this list view over here, come back here and just paste. Well, there's some filterings there. Okay, let me paste it. Now here we're filtering by the habit, and we don't really care about the specific habit. We just want to get the date. So we can just filter by any habit, right? We're going to get the date. So basically this query here, right? So if we go to this data tab, it's going to display all of this information for all the habits, right? Because it's all pre-calculated. So we can just work with habit one, and we have order. That is fine. We're going to say confirm. And now we have this. Now I want this list view to be horizontal. That's not going to work because we don't have a constraint on this list view. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it in a container, and I'm going to give it a constraint. Okay, and so now I can come back here and I can make it horizontal. Okay, and so that way it's going to display the proper information. And this is obviously right hand justified, and now we can display it. So the first thing, the top is the actual day, and the bottom is day of the week. Okay, so that is exactly what we want to do. So let's come over here, and we have this, and so we have the entry date. This is what we're looking for. So we're going to take that, and of course we're going to be formatting it. So what is the top? The top is the date. And so let's see, do we have a date here? Well, we have day of the week. We don't have the date. Well, D is the date. So what we can do is go ahead and fix that. We can just do custom and just put D. Okay, and that's gonna do it. And then day of the week is something very similar. Entry date, format. And so day of the week, do we have kind of a shorthand? What does it do? Just the first two letters. I don't remember what the first two letters are, but what we can do is I'll just put I don't know, I'll try, let's do custom. You see how, okay, so that is not, well, this is close. Maybe it's, there was a link before. I think they removed the link where you can find it. Okay, so let's just leave it like this for now. Okay, and so that's going to display the dates starting from today, because that is what the query does. And we can also bold it. We can do that as well. Let me see, can we do that? Well, we can do it dynamically, because neither of this are dynamic. So we'll have to do it another way, which is fine. And this is going to be the month. So the month for what date? Just keep it simple, make it the month for today. And so this is going to be, what we're going to do is we're going to get today's date and get the month. I'm going to say current time, and we're going to format it. And what we can do is we can get the month, which again, we need to know what that format is. And you know, let's do, I don't know why, I'm just guessing here, but we'll figure it out. Okay, so that is what we have. Let's go ahead and rebuild our app, start a new session, and see how it looks. All right, so here's our app, and as you can see, it kind of looks what we want. I mean, it does look kind of what we want, has the features, but it doesn't have the right thing. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for the way to format it. And here I found a page which should help us to format the right date. Okay, so what do we need to display? Well, we want to display the month, right? The full month. And this is it. Okay, this should do it. I'm gonna come back over here, and instead of this, we're gonna paste that. And this should have been custom. In fact, this should be custom. Okay, so hopefully that should do it. And now what we need is the other thing. We need the day of the week, just 2 letters. Let's see if we can find it. Abbreviation weekday. I think the E should work. Okay, let's go ahead and put the E there because we had D. So I think it's this one. Let's go ahead and rebuild it, and hopefully it would look the way we want it to look. Okay, so this is what we have. So I think this is correct. Something is off over here. Let me double check. Did I change the wrong date? The bottom should be, right? Because the top is E. The bottom should be E. Okay, the bottom should be E, and the top should be the day, which is not what we have. Let me find this. The day, D. It should be D. The top should be D. Okay, and this one here, what do we miss there? This should be the month. And what do we have here? Oh, I thought I changed it. Okay, let's go ahead and rebuild that. All right, and there you go. Looks pretty good to me. We just need some spacing here. Yeah, we need some padding here, but this is exactly what we want. Let's go ahead and fix that. We select this. This is this column. We can just do padding, something like this. Maybe that's too much. Okay, that looks better. And that should work. And then we'll do the bolding as well, just to give it that nice effect. I think this looks pretty cool. Maybe we need to align it correctly. Yeah, we need to kind of work on the alignment, make it a little bit smaller, you know, work on this. But that's all, in my view, that is all minor stuff. The important stuff works. Let's make this bold, and we can do that by checking if it's the current date. Okay, because this one here, you see, this is the current time, and then we'll check that. So, or we can just check if it's the first one that we're displaying, right? Excuse me, if it's the last one, right? Because the sorting, right? If you take a look at the sorting is increasing, right? Which is, we're doing it from from left to right. Then we can simply check if it's the last one. Okay, and so what we're gonna do is we can wrap this in a there's a lot of ways to do it. We can just wrap it in a stack, and then what we can do is we can just duplicate it, and then this one is going to be not the last one, and this is going to be the last one. So I'm going to do conditional, and we're going to do single condition habits row index in list. Right, we're checking for the index in list, and remember we have 7. So if index in list is less than 6, right, that means it's not the last one, because it's going to go from 0 to 7. So this is not the last one, whereas this one, index in list, is equal to 6, which is the last one. Then we can bold it. All right, so let's go ahead and bold it. That's going to bold it, and this is also going to bold. Something like this, okay? And so this one, index in list, is 0 to 6, because it's going to go from 0 to 6, which is, you know, how we count from 1 to 7. Okay, so let's go ahead and see how this works. If it does what we want, there you go. Looks beautiful. So this is now bolded. Let's go ahead and make it a little bit smaller. I think let's try 10, because I think that's going to fix a lot of issues. Oh, that's too small. I think that's going to be way too small. Let's make it 12. All right, let's see if that looks better. And we'll definitely need to decrease the size of the icons as well. Okay, that looks better. That looks a lot better. It's still taking up a lot of space. Let me see this. Well, no, it doesn't take up a lot. It takes about half a screen, right? So if we divide the screen, maybe a little bit more than that, because yeah, so this is fine. We just need to make this a little bit maybe smaller and more padding. So we're gonna come back over here, and so we have these icons over here, and let's go ahead and make them a little bit more padding. Let's go ahead and pad them. What are we padding them? Here we are padding, this column is 10, and here we can do it on the column level. In fact, that's going to be better. So this column, we're going to do 10 as well. Okay, and let's see how that looks. Decrease the size of the icon. I think it's too big for now. Okay, so yeah, make it a little bit smaller, and that's going to be perfect. Let's make it maybe 20, maybe 22. Let's see. Okay, and that looks pretty good. That looks pretty damn good. I would decrease the spacing here, right? I would decrease the spacing. There's too much space, and maybe move it a little bit to the right. Maybe, yeah, increase the padding a little bit. Increase the padding. I think that's going to do it. And there's a lot of space here because of this padding. We are going to do everywhere except the bottom. Okay, and let's take a look at this. What's going on over here? Let's make it just a tad more padding, maybe 12. Okay, so that's what's gonna happen is, let's do it this way. See if that works. I think that's gonna be nicer. And there you have it. That looks, should I say perfect? It looks right under it. So this looks great. Maybe I want to align this correctly. Let's see how, yeah. So I want to lower it, right? As you can see, November is above it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this down. Let's see how we can do it. So this is this column. We're going to move it down like this and take a look. Yeah, so there's a container. There's a container there. And yeah, this is fine. I just want to move this. I want to move up. It's already up. Okay, let me see. This text. Okay, that's already up. Left justified. This row like this. That's what we want to do. We want to do it on the row level. And that's going to affect everything. Okay, let's go ahead and reload this. All right, this is what we get. So now it's nicely aligned. It's aligned with this. It's starting to look really nice. Now, I really hope that you're enjoying this app building tutorial, perhaps picking up a new skill or learning a new technique. But if you're really serious about building all kinds of apps, anything from very simple to very complex and pretty much anything in between, then you need to check out our flagship training, Mastering FlutterFlow and Mastering Supabase. Mastering FlutterFlow is the best FlutterFlow training on the internet because it walks you step by step, video module by video module, telling you everything that you need to know in order to build pretty much any kind of app that you want without you needing to waste any time learning the things that you don't. When you join our amazing Mastering FlutterFlow community, you'll also get access to our private Discord server where you can ask pretty much any kind of question when it comes to building apps. And that might include stuff in the training, or maybe it's a question about the app that you're planning to build or are building right now. It doesn't matter. We will help you to the best of our ability build the app of your dreams. And Mastering Supabase is our flagship Supabase training that walks you step by step, video module by video module, covering the most key and important concepts when it comes to using Supabase as your backend of choice. And if you've seen any of my videos, you know that I absolutely love Supabase for its ease of use and its high performance, as well as tons of other benefits. And so if you're serious about building a production app or maybe a simpler app, chances are you need a backend. You need to store your data. You may also need authentication and lots of other things. And all of that is covered in my Mastering Supabase training. And just like when it comes to Mastering FlutterFlow, you'll also get access to our private community where we'll be glad to help you solve any issues when it comes to your Supabase, from design to implementation to launching. And if you purchase the trainings this week, you'll also be able to take advantage of our generous Black Friday discount to sweeten the deal. And so if you're serious about building just about any kind of app and you want to join the best community when it comes to building apps with FlutterFlow as well as Supabase, then definitely check out our trainings and consider becoming a member. You can learn more via the links in the description below, along with the special Black Friday discount that will be valid this week only. All right, so the next thing that I want to work on is I want to have this logic where if they click on any one of these, it's going to toggle it. Okay, and so let's say, you know, we have something like this, and I realize that, wait a second, I think Sunday I did read 10 pages, right? So they can go back and they can click here and they can toggle it to check mark, okay? And this is actually fairly straightforward. So remember, we have this conditional builder. So we have this icon, if this is true. What is true? Well, if you come over here, you can see if it's a check mark, right? If there's a habit and we click on it, we need to delete this row Otherwise, if there's no habit and we click on it, we need to create a row. So let's try to do this over here. So if you click over here, what we need to do is we need to delete the row, right? Because this if habit, right? So we need to delete the row, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna delete this row, and this is from habits entries, right? Because this is this table over here, and we don't really need to return matching row, but we need to find the row. Okay, we have the habit ID and we need to delete it on that specific date. Okay, so we need the habit ID and we need the date. Okay, that is kind of the only two things, because you can have multiple habits on the same days, and that's pretty much it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for, we have habit ID entry date. Habit ID is equal to, and we're going to pull it from this, right? Because they're clicking on this. We're going to pull it from the view. We can't modify the view directly. We can only modify the underlying tables. And so we're going to say we want the habit ID. In fact, we can just get the ID, right? We don't need to mess with habit ID and entry. We can just get the ID of the underlying table, right? This ID here, right? If we click over here, where's that ID coming from, right? So remember, we have this view here. We don't have an ID. Okay, so another thing that we can do is we can modify this view to get the habit entry ID, and that's gonna simplify things a lot, right? And so what I'm gonna do is I will modify it. I will say, give us, modify this. I'm just gonna say modify this view here and add the ID, right? In fact, I'm gonna do it here. Modify and add the habit entry, or is it entries, ID to the view. Okay, this should be fairly simple, and there we have it. Okay, let's go ahead and put that there. Create a replace view. Okay, cannot change the name of the view, has habit to habit. Let's go ahead and debug it just to keep things simple. Okay, accept change. Let's see if that works. Okay, it's still telling us cannot change the name of the view has habit to habit entry ID. Habit has habit. Where's this has habit? As has habit. Let me double check. Let's go ahead and take a look. So this is our view over here, and we want to get the ID, right? So we take a look at the view. Let's keep it simple. We have habit ID, entry date, and has habit. We go back over here. Select entry date, habit ID, and has habit. So what we need here is we need from, and we want to get the habit entries, right? So so it's gonna be HEID as ID. Okay, that should do it. Create or replace view. Let's see if that works. Cannot change. Okay, so what we need to do is, looks like we need to drop the view. That should work. It drop view. Let's go ahead and drop it and recreate it. It's just a view. It should be fine. Okay, so there we have it. So if we go back to our view, we have the ID. Okay, and what's cool about it is we have the ID, and so using this ID we can delete, right? So if we are deleting, we can just filter, we can just delete it using the ID, but to create it, obviously we can just create it. So this makes it so much easier, because we no longer need to filter by two fields. We can just filter by one field. Okay, let me go ahead and refresh it, get schema, come back over here. We have the ID, and this is this habit entry ID. And now we can go back and we can just do matching rows. We don't need two filters. We can just do ID equals to whatever the ID is. Habit entries, yes, habit entries is the ID, and that's what we're doing, right? And then we can just get this ID here, and that's it. And we can also refresh it, right? We can just do a refresh. This is gonna be, is it list view 1 or list view 2? I think it's list view 2. Okay, so now if we click on the check mark, remember this is this check mark. The first is the check mark. It's gonna delete it, and we should only have two check marks, right? We have two check marks here, because otherwise these ones, there's no habit and there's no row, so we're not going to be messing with that. So let's go ahead and test this out, see if that works. All right, so here we are, we have this. So if I click over here, you see how it changed it. It's still doing it here, and so we need to fix that. I'm going to fix that. But now if we refresh this, let me go ahead and refresh that. We don't have it anymore, right? All of these are in. We only have one habit. So if I go here, we only have one habit. We only have one habit. And so the flip side of that is if we click here, we are clicking on a date that doesn't have a habit. So we need to create a habit. We need to create an entire record on that date. So I'm going to click here. I'm going to type insert row, and we're going to do habit entries. And now we need to add all the fields, and we can remove these. These are automatic. Entry date is today. And so we can just do date, global, current time. That should do it. Completed is true. And habit ID is going to be the ID of the habit. Okay, let's see if that works. Okay, no errors. And we can do a refresh. Refresh list view 2. Or in fact, we can do list view 1 as well. Okay, let's go ahead and refresh that. Okay, so we still have this issue there. I need to look into it closer. It's duplicating, but we'll fix that. So let's say I decide, I remember that I actually ran on the 19th. So I'm going to click here and it should do it. And it looks like, okay, so it did it. I did it on today. Okay, so it almost did it correctly, except it did it on the wrong date. It did it on today. So we need to go and fix this. Click over here, entry date. It should not be current time. It should be this entry date, right? It should be the entry date from where we are clicking. That should be the entry date. Okay, so let's go ahead and try this again. Let's go ahead and rebuild this app. All right, there we go. So let's say 16. I click here and there it is. Okay, so it's still being duplicated. It's still duplicating. And so if we come back over here, hit refresh, and now we see it on the 16th. So at least it works, right? So if I click over here, it deletes it. Okay, so now it finds this ID 4, right? It's gone over there. So I still need to kind of fix this. I'm going to look into it. But the main logic works as expected. Just looked at it and I was able to fix that duplication. So now, as you can see, there's no more duplication. If I click over here, it does it here, and it's going to do it just for one habit. It's not going to duplicate it, right? If I do that here, now we have a habit here, and I can refresh it, and we have it here. And the reason for that, and I believe this could be just a bug. So if you go over here, and remember I had these two calls, delete a row and insert a row. So here I was refreshing list view 2, and I don't need to refresh list view 2. I can just refresh list view 1, this top one. And so what I ended up doing was I'm just refreshing this one, list view 1, and I'm doing the same thing when you are toggling off. I'm just doing list view 1, and as a result, it works now, right? So we can uncheck that, we can uncheck that, we can check stuff here, and now we should have 4 records, right? If I refresh that, we have 4 records, 2 for habit 1, 2 for habit 2. I can do this, and so it works perfectly because it refreshes the whole thing at once, and it doesn't have that issue there. Now, the next thing that I want to work on is the streaks. Okay, so if we take a look at this table over here, we have our habits entries, right? So if we take a look here, and what we want to track is if there's a streak, basically habits being done on a consistent basis. So if you take a look for this first habit, we see that they're 2 days in a row. So that's a streak of 2. Okay, and if we take a look here, you can see that there are 4 days in a row. Okay, so that's a streak of 4, right? Obviously, if we just had one of this, it wouldn't be a streak of 1. It would be no streaks, because for a streak to exist, it needs to be greater than 1, right? If you do something now and then you do something in a month, there's no streak. Okay, you have to do it consistently. Okay. And so the way that we're going to solve this problem is we're going to create a view that's going to calculate all the streaks for the habits. Okay. And so if there's no streaks, it's just going to be 0. Otherwise, we're going to say that there's a particular streak there, right? So in this example, we have here a streak of 0 when there's nothing being done, right? Whereas here, it's a streak of 2, right? 2 days in a row. Okay. So let's go ahead and try this out. We are going to be using the SQL editor, and we're going to ask Supabase AI to do it. Create a view that will calculate streaks where a habit every day is done every day, and list all the habits with their streaks. And then we can say something like, no streak is found, no subsequent days to 0. Okay, and that way, for all of these habits, we'll have an answer. Okay, let's go see if this works. There we go. Okay, let's go and see if this is what we want. So it's going to be called habit streaks, and we have a problem here. Let's go ahead and debug it, see if that fixes it. Accept change. Okay, now that worked. All right, let's go back here, and we have this habit streaks, and let's see. Okay, so now as you can see, habit ID streak is 2, reading streak is 4. Okay, so this is great. Okay, but we still need to test it, right? So if we go back to habit entries, let's say I delete this one. Okay, I'm gonna delete this one. We should not have a streak. So if I go back to my habit streaks, let's see what we have. Refresh that. And here it says streak 1. And that's the thing, like it really depends how you view it, right? Because if you go to habits entries, I mean, we have 1, but that's not really a streak, right? It doesn't really count if we have 1. And so, I mean, if I do something once, and then let's say I do it again, or let's say we go back in time and I say, okay, I had something, I'm gonna click here, I did something like, a week ago, and I say completed true, and I say habit ID is 1. And let's see what it's gonna calculate. There's no streaks here, right? So if we, sort it by this over here, let's go ahead and sort it by habit ID, and we can see that, okay, so we did one on, 11:13 and then 11:20. There's no streak there. And then we go into habit streaks, and what do we see? We see 1. Okay, so that at least it's consistent. But this should probably be 0. Okay, this should probably be 0. I mean, it depends how you do it, but in my mind, there's no consistency, right? So there's no streak. So it's either gonna be 0 or it's gonna be 2 or more. 1 doesn't really mean anything. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back here and I'm gonna make sure that it sets it so that if it's 1, it's still 0. Modify the view habit streaks. A streak of 1 is still 0. Okay, let's see if this works. Okay, so it's gonna create a new one. Let's go ahead. I'm gonna copy this and I'm gonna paste it again. Okay, we already have it. I'm gonna drop it. Drop view habit streaks. Run this query, and okay, success. Come back over here, habit streaks, and now it's 0. Okay, that's kind of how I like it, right? If you haven't done something at least 2 days in a row, it doesn't count. Okay, and that's kind of what we have. So now if I go to habit entries, and let's say I had a streak of 11. Actually, you know what would happen if we have a I don't know, if we have something, if we did something on 11:14 and then we skipped it and we do 11:20, do we have a streak of 2 or did we break the streak? That is the question, right? So let me go ahead and add something for 11:14, and I'm gonna say true, habit ID is 1, and let's see what we have. So now, we did something 2 days in a row, and then we stopped for like a week. And then we came back in a week and we did something again. And so now if we go back here, habit streaks. Okay, so now streak is 2. Okay, so it's counting that. And this is a question. Do we want to have it this way or do we not want to have it this way? I mean, I don't know. I guess it depends how you look at it, right? We'll have to kind of think about it. But for now, let's just leave it as is and let's go ahead and implement it. We can always change the logic, okay? Let's go ahead and refresh our Supabase here, get schema. So now we have this habit streaks. Let's go ahead and let's display that here, right? So we can simply query it by the habit ID. So where do we want to display it? We want to display the streak here. Okay, we want to come here, and this is where we want to display here. We're just displaying the ID. But what we can do is we can get the streaks on this whole thing level, on this card level, or we can just get it on the ID. So let's get it on the card level. We're gonna do Supabase query. We're gonna say habit streaks. We're gonna get single row, and we're gonna filter by habit ID is equal to ID. And then here we can just display the streak, habit streaks. Let's go ahead and run this and see if that works as expected. All right, so here we are. So as you can see, it's showing 2 because we had a streak way before. right? If I do this, it counts 3 because now we have a streak here. Otherwise, we have a 2, or now it's displaying 2 for the old streak. Okay, here as you can see, it's being updated, and that's the thing. Now, when I looked at this app that I was getting inspiration from, the way this app works is that it only displays this for the week. So it saves the previous, but it's only displaying the streak for the week. Okay, and so that is one approach that we can take. But right now, as you can see, we can do that, and it's you know, saving, displaying it correctly. But the thing is that if I remove that, let's say I don't have anything, what does this 2 mean? Is that like a historical streak? I mean, that could be like a historical streak, or we can just focus on the last week and say, okay, we're just going to focus on the last week. So we'll see. We'll see. I mean, that is our decision, right? That is our decision. And another thing about this app is that it makes this 1. You know, actually, like, come to think of it, I think we should keep it as 1, right? So if you have 1, just keep it as 1. Okay, that way it's consistent, because now you have 0, this is 0, this is still 0, and then it becomes 2. So I'm going to change it. I'm going to say, you know what, we can have a streak of 1. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and change it because I think that it just makes things as consistent. Okay, so do we have, no, we don't have that. I removed that. And so let me see this 0 max. Okay, so we need to fix this. What I'm going to do is so that a streak will be 1 if something is done once, not 0. Okay, let's see if that fixes it. Okay, so that makes it as 1 I think that's the only change. I think it just changes it there. Let's go ahead and rerun it, see if that works. Come back over here. Now it says 2, and let's go to habit entries, and that's because we have 2. We have 2 streaks, and so I'm going to delete one of them. I'm going to come over here, habit streaks, refresh it. Okay, now it's 1. Okay, so now we're back to that kind of that original behavior, which is something that I think is going to work best. And let's say we delete this whole thing, it should be 0. Okay, come back, habit streaks. Oh, it's still 1. Okay, I think there's some issue there. Go ahead and fix that. Habit streaks, SQL editor. Okay, there's some issue there. Let's do this. Make sure that a streak is 0 when there's no consecutive days, or 1 if there's 1 day, or greater than 1 when there are more than 1 consecutive day, or when there are multiple consecutive days, something like this. Let's go ahead and execute that. Okay, I think that looks good. That looks like the original. And let's go ahead and put that up there. I'm just gonna paste that over there and drop view. Gonna run that. Okay, that should work, hopefully. Okay, and there you go. So 0 and 2. Okay, so this looks good. And if I refresh that, it should reflect on the app as well. Okay, so 0, 2, delete that, 1, 0. Okay, so now it's kind of consistent to how it was. Okay. Another thing that we can do is we can display kind of a record streak and a streak here, you know, because it doesn't make much sense. Like if we have just 2 here and you had something back in the day, like maybe a couple of months ago where you did something for, you know, 7 days in a row, it doesn't make sense to list 7 here. So we can have 7 as the record and then 2 for this week. Okay, so maybe something like this. So let's see if we can do that right now. I think that's going to be interesting. We come back here and we say modify the habit streaks to display 2 streaks. 1 historical, considering all the days the habit was completed, and another one, and 1 for the last week, including today. Okay, let's see if this works. And there we have it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new snippet, and I'm going to come here, and I'm going to paste it. And what I'm going to do is I'm also going to call this habit streaks 2. I'm going to touch that. Come back over here, habit streaks 2. Let's take a look. Okay, so now that is historical. Well, because we have it here. So if I come back here to my habit entries, and let's say I had like 3 habits November 1st, so the beginning of the month. So I'm going to insert a row, and I'm going to say this was 1, habit ID 1, and then I'm going to say, 2. So here we have this, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to insert another one. Let's say this was 2, this was true, habit ID 1, and one more, 3, true, habit ID 1. Okay, so now we have 1, 2, 3. In fact, let's go ahead and sort it. Let's add entry date. Okay. So now we have 1, 2, 3. So we have a streak of 3 and then a 2 for this week. Okay. So if you go to habit streaks 2, there we go. Historical streak, weekly streak. So that's kind of cool. I think that's pretty cool. Let's go ahead and use this, because that way you can see what was your largest historical streak, right? You have 3, and see if you can beat it, right? If you can beat that historical streak. So let's go ahead and use this one, habit streaks 2. So I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna get my schema, and in fact, why don't we just rename it? I'm gonna say drop habit streaks 2, and I'm gonna say historic, something like this. All right, and now let's go ahead and refresh this. Okay, so now we have historical streak and weekly streak. Okay, let's go ahead and fix our query here. Historical, single row, filter, it's the same. Confirm, and now this needs to be, in fact, we're gonna do a combine text, and then here what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do the weekly streak. I'm gonna add a space, then I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do one in parentheses, and I'm gonna do historical and close parentheses. Okay, so something like this. Let's go ahead and refresh this. Okay, so there we have it. So I have 2. But historical is 3, and now we have 4, but historical is also 4. So it's kind of okay. So we have historical of 3. So now it becomes 4. Okay, it's not displaying the historical. It's basically taking it, and this becomes the historical, right? It's kind of like, well, in fact, what we can do is we can display the historical only if it's greater than the current one, right? Because if we beat it, there's no reason to know the historical, right? Like, we've beaten it, right? And so that is kind of one approach, or we can just display the current one. So why don't we just make it simple and just display the current one? We'll see. Let's just do it. Let's just do weekly over here. We'll see. Maybe we'll keep the historical. I think maybe we'll keep it somewhere. But right now, let's go ahead and just display the weekly one, and then we'll see what we can do. Okay, so here's our weekly one, and that's 1. Seems to be working perfect. All right, so the next thing that I want to work on is the milestones. Okay, so add, this milestones flow, viewing the milestones, adding the milestones, things like that. They can be also called rewards, streaks, milestones. It's all pretty much the same thing. Now, if we take a look at our Supabase, we have this table milestones, where we store milestones for a specific habit. So as you can see here, for this habit 1, which is, I believe it is reading, actually it's running, we have 3 milestones. So we have 3 days in a row, 7 days in a row, and 30 days in a row. Okay, and the idea is, once you have this, once you complete a milestone, you do something for X amount of consecutive days, it's gonna get marked. And you might also get like a push notification as well. So as you can see over here, it is marked. So this one is marked, this one is marked, this one is marked, right? They're in different colors here. And so we're going to create this kind of grid and display all the milestones that can be completed for the habits that we have, right? So in this example, we've created this first habit, and we also created 3 milestones that I have here with some sample data. And so we're going to be displaying pretty much all the milestones that are available to us to complete. Okay, and that's kind of the idea. All right, and so let's go ahead and create another page here. I'm just going to call it so I'm going to click here, and I'm going to say milestones. Okay, I'm going to create this page. Let's go ahead and change this. And this is a perfect use case for a grid, right? This is exactly what we want to do. So we have this grid, and the question is, what kind of grid do we want, right? So if you take a look here, it's two horizontally, and whatever, whatever fits is vertically, right? That's exactly what we're gonna do. So we have these settings over here, and so it's not set horizontal, but we have this cross axis. And that is good because cross axis is the opposite. So whatever this is not set to, cross axis is going to be the opposite of this. So all we need to do is set 2. And now we have cross axis of 2. And this is kind of how you want it to set up. Now, before we display everything, right? We probably need to create the view because this habit here, we only have the ID. And in this view, we actually have the habit, right? Drink water, read. This is the name of a habit. We don't have the name here. And so a nice approach will be to create a view that displays, that gets the name of the habit and also gets the description in case we need it. And the description in our case is going to have, it's going to have this description over here, which has this unit, right? 2 miles, 30 minutes, etc. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to our SQL editor. I'm going to create a new snippet, and I'm going to ask our Supabase AI to create the view. Create the view that displays milestones with habit name and habit description. And I think that's it we need, right? So we have the name and we have the description, and this is the actual milestone, right? So 7 days in a row, 5 days in a row, 7 in a row, right? 7x in a row, etc., etc. Okay? So that's all we need. So we just need to create another view, and let's see how this works. Okay, so now it created this milestones with habits. Let's go ahead and execute it. Let's go ahead and see if it's displaying the right data, and it is. Milestone ID, milestone type, description, habit name, habit description. Looks good to me. Looks good to me. I don't even know if you need milestone. Okay, so milestone date. It's going to be the time that we may have reached a specific milestone, right? It can be that. If we want to store that, if you want to kind of store that information, so that is something that we can do, or we'll see what we're going to be storing it for. But for now, this is kind of what we have. So I'm going to go to get my new schema. I'm going to come back here, and now we can load the data, right? We can do the Supabase, we can do milestone with habits, a list of rows, and we can filter them by the we don't have the habit ID. We can I meant not filter them, I meant order them by the habit name. So what I'm gonna do, in fact, yeah, so let's order it by the habit name, and let's do it in increasing order, so A to Z, and that's it. Let's go ahead and see that. Now inside the grid view, we need to have the cards, right? So we're going to have a card, and we need to display the data. So how are we going to display it? Well, it's actually very simple. We have the card, and below the card, so inside the card, we have this kind of Supabase logo, or like a lightning kind of logo, and then you have 7x, etc. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a column, and inside the column, I'm going to put this text, and I'm going to duplicate it, and let's go ahead and center this column, and let's go ahead and make it bigger, right? So both of these are, fairly large. So like 22 maybe, make it bold. And this one will also be 22. Let's go ahead and make it bold. And let's go ahead and give it some spacing. Let's go ahead and do something like this. And in fact, what we can do something else. We can do it on the column level, which is always a better approach if you can kind of get it to work, right? If it's not too much. Let's go ahead and remove this. Okay. So this is going to be our lightning here, and this is going to be our the actual whatever 7x, etc. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to display it. And what are we going to be displaying? Well, we have this milestone type, so we can display that. And here we can display this icon. In fact, we can replace this widget. We can replace it with an icon. Okay, so let me add an icon myself. That's gonna be nice. And let's go ahead and see if we can find it. Lightning, bolt. There we go. Perfect. Look at that. That looks pretty cool. Let's make it a little bit bigger. Let's go ahead and test this out. And before that, we need to give it, we need to set up a navbar so we can access that page. So navbar, let's give this a navbar. Home is going to have a navbar, and milestone is going to have a navbar. And we have a navbar. And for milestones, what are we going to display? This doesn't seem like it has a navbar. Interesting. Probably does somewhere, but let's see if we can progress something. I don't know, maybe something like this. All right, let's go ahead and run our app and see if it at least displays the stuff correctly. All right, there we go. So this says 3 days, 7 days, 30 days. So what we can do is we can filter the date and do 3x, 7x, exactly how we have it here. Or we can just leave it as is, right? I think X looks better, right? So we can take this, this thing here, the date, right? Or what we can do is we can simply ignore the last character, right? Take everything else, just ignore the last, because it's always going to be just one letter, right? And we can simply, take whatever is left, everything except the last character, and append the X to it, okay? But before that, what I want to do is I want to display stuff underneath, maybe something like we have it here, okay? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this in a column. I'm going to say column, okay? And when we wrap it to a column, this kind of loses it a little bit. Discard, because it doesn't have its own kind of constraints. I mean, it will have its constraints once it expands, right? And what we're going to do is we're going to add some text elements there. And let's give this card a little bit of padding so that they do not run into each other. Okay, that looks good. And so what are we going to display here? This is the name of the habit, and this is the description of the habit. Come over here, habit name and habit description. Description. What's the milestone? Okay, actually it's the milestone. Habit name. No, do we have a milestone name? No, we don't. So what we need to do is habit name and milestone description. All right, and let's go ahead and run it and see how it looks. All right, there we go. Ran 3 days in a row. So yeah, well, it's in past tense, and this is still, because it's displaying this 3D. Okay, so we need to work on the constraints. Okay, so as you can see, this card, it's not handling, like there's no easy way to handle constraints. That is kind of the issue, because the column takes it all in. Okay, the column takes it all in, and it makes this, it doesn't expand it automatically. That's kind of the issue we have. Now, there's a couple of things that we can do here. As you can see, this card over here, it has this expansion, so it expands the column. But what we can do is we can also wrap it in a row, so that way it will expand horizontally as well. So I'm going to wrap it in a row. And so now we have a row here, and this row is expanded on the column level, and this card is going to expand on the row level, right? If you click here, now it expands it perfectly, okay? This gives it that constraint that it didn't have before. And so now if you refresh it, it should take up the whole space with this expansion, all right? And there you have it. And now it looks perfect because it has this perfect expansion. So now let's go ahead and fix this. I want it to look like 3x, 7x, 30x, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see how we can do it first, and I'm going to just check with our code pilot. So I can say something like this, return a string with the last character removed. So this is going to allow us to do it without needing to kind of look it up and knowing programming or anything like that. Okay, so there you have it. So this is how it's going to do it. So this statement right here is going to take the input and give us back everything except the last string. So we can just copy it here, and we can simply go here. And now what we can do is we can use a code expression. Right, so I'm going to do a code expression. I'm going to paste that there, and we're going to send the string. So this is our input, and our input is, what is our input? Milestone type. This is our input. We're going to take our input and return it without the last one. That's all we need to do. Okay, so that's going to come back with just what we have. And what we can do is we can append the, like the X. You can simply do this, and that's going to append the X. Okay, let's go ahead and see how this works. All right, here we go. And this is exactly what we have now, right? So we get back the string without the last one. We simply append the X. A very, very easy way to fix it. All right, so it's starting to kind of come together. The only thing I want to do is I want to give it a little bit padding from the top. We can do that on this column level, something like this. In fact, on the column level, we can come over here and we can do something like this, column level. Okay. Alrighty, starting to look really, really nice. Let's go ahead and reload that. And that is what we have. So now we have our milestones in this nice UI, in this nice grid view. Now, the next thing that we want to do is we want to display this view, but we want to mark certain milestone a different color if they have been completed. And we can do that with a view. We can do the heavy lifting in Supabase, okay? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create another view. And let's go ahead and do this Supabase AI. And I'm going to say create a view that will check whether a specific milestone has been completed based on the habit streak for a specific user. And if so, mark a field milestone done as yes, otherwise milestone done as no. Okay, let's see if this works. All right, there it is. Okay, so that's going to be awesome. Let's go ahead and see what have milestone completion status. Okay, success. Come back over here. Okay, so take a look at this. We have our milestones and it's telling us that none of them have been completed, which is, I don't think that's correct actually, because this one is completed. And why is it not completed? Because, we are not because of this, right? Because if you go to our milestones, this milestone type, it's 3D, 70, 30 days. It needs to know about it, right? Because in habit entries, we have this 1, 2, 3, right? We have this streak. In fact, we have it again. 1, 2, 3. So we have this milestone done 2 times. Okay, so what we need to do is let's go back, modify this view to make sure that we check the milestone streak in the milestones table. 3D or 30D represents that for the milestone to be completed, it needs to have at least a 3-day streak or a 30-day streak. Let's see if this works. Okay, so it's taking that into account, but we don't want it to take that into account. We want to extract the needed streak for the milestone from milestone type. The digit, the format is always number followed by D or V, W or M, where D equals days, weeks, M equals months. Okay, let's see if this works. Okay, so looks like it's doing it. Let's see. Okay, so you see how it's doing some crazy stuff. It's doing like a lot of calculations that we'd have to do it ourselves, and we don't have to do it. So let's go ahead and paste this, and we need to delete it, but I'm gonna delete it. Drop view. Let's see if that works. Okay, no errors. We are empty. Why are we empty? Milestone completion status, it is empty. Let's see this view. The view milestone completion status is empty. We do have one milestone, the 3D milestone type, because we have habit streak of 3. Okay, it realized there's some issue there, and it's going to go ahead and redo it. Drop view if it exists. Okay, great. See if it drops it. Put that in there. Okay, and the moment of truth. No, it's still empty. Milestone completion status. Milestone type. Yeah, that's sure we have it correctly. Yeah, 1. Yeah, so if you take a look at milestones, right? We have habit idea 1, 3D. So we have that. If we go to habit entries, habit idea 1, we have it more than 3 times. And so in fact, we probably don't even need this thing, because it's It's automatic. So let's see. I don't think we need that. Let's go ahead and redo it. Let's see. Create a view that will list whether a specific milestone from the milestone table has been completed. A milestone is completed when a milestone defined by milestone type, digit, where number represents number of consecutive times, and the character represents whether it's the days and months, weeks. Let's do this. Weeks and months, or why. Well, we don't need years. This is fine. If a particular milestone has been completed, show yes, and if not, display n. Okay, let's see if this works. All right, there we go. Let's see if this works. Okay, habit streaks. Relation habit streaks does not exist. It deleted habit streaks. I think because I did that cascade. Okay, let me go ahead and fix that. How does it look? I think we still have it in our habit streaks. It's a view. Okay, so let's go ahead and redefine the view, because I removed that completed date and it killed it. So let me go ahead and do the view first. Create a view called habit streaks consisting of the following fields: habit ID, habit name, and streak, where a streak is the number of times a specific habit has been completed consecutively. Let's go ahead. See this, come back over here, habit streaks. Okay, so we have a streak of 5 because habit entries, we have 2 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so I don't know how it got 5. I have no idea. Habit streaks reading is 2, which is correct, but why did it get 5? Okay, let me go ahead and fix it. A streak, modify this view to make sure that a streak can only be a series of consecutive habit entries. If there is a non-consecutive, a streak is broken if there's a non-consecutive habit entry. Okay, let's see if it works. Let's go ahead and drop it. Habit streaks. All right, let's see this. Habit streaks. Still, what is going on? This is absolutely wrong. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, this is wrong. Okay, let's see if we can fix it. The view returns a streak of 5 when there are streaks of 3 days. It's incorrect, and it should return. Let's see if this works. Not, we'll have to do it again. Again, that's 5. Okay. All right, let's start over. Let's do a reset. Create a view called habit streaks that will display the following fields: habit ID, habit name, and streak. A streak is defined as the number of consecutive that a particular has been completed. Use the last streak. Make sure to use. Okay, let's try this again. All right, does this work? Okay, now it's in. Why is this? All right, so I went ahead and did this. I created this view after a couple of tries and errors. This is the view that was created for me. And as a result, it works pretty good. Okay, so if we go to this habit streaks, 3 and 2, which is the right thing, which is, the right results. And so the next one that I want to do is I want to do this milestones completed view that will display which milestones have been completed so that we can populate this correctly. And I also went ahead and created this view, milestone completion, that will return true if a specific milestone has been completed for a specific habit. We have the milestone IDs here. And so in this example, we have this milestone completed here, okay, for this habit ID, based on this habit entries, right here. Now, there's still a couple of things that we need to do. We want to track the user ID, right? We want to make sure that, because habit entries, habits are user ID, and well, habit entries by default are also user ID because they're linked to this specific habit. And so this thing also needs a user ID here, right? Because we can extract it with a habit ID, but it's going to be easier with a user ID. But still, regardless, you can see that this is true now, and these are false. It's going to be super easy to display the milestones and mark the milestones that have been completed. All right, so now we have our milestone completion. We have the user IDs, we have all the habits, and we can see exactly which milestones have been completed. And so now we can go back to our app, we can go to Supabase, refresh our schema, and we have this milestone completed here. Okay, and so now we can go over here, and instead of just getting milestone with habits, we can do milestone completion. I think that's the one, right? We could probably rename it or just keep it. It kind of makes sense. We have completed milestones completed, which is a table for something else, but we have milestone completion here. Okay, and so we're gonna sort it, the habit ID probably increasing, and we can also filter it, right, by the user. User ID equals to, and we need to turn on authentication. We're gonna do that in a bit. We have that here, and so now because we have this milestone completed flag, we can mark a particular milestone being completed or not. So let's say this, I don't know, container. We can go to this card, and we can do a background color. Right, we can come over here, we can do a condition, and we can say, well, milestone, what is that? Milestone completed, milestone completed. I could say, well, if milestone completed is true, then, have the color, whatever. We can make it green, something like this. Otherwise, nothing. It's just going to be white. So let's see if this works, because we have completed one milestone. Okay, and we got a bunch of errors. Habit, because it's that completed field. Yeah, we don't need that. We got a bunch of errors because we removed that field. Habit streaks historical. It's just habit streaks. It's just habit streaks. What else do we have? Property override. I forgot what that is supposed to be. It's the streaks. What else? This one, code expression. Input is, what are we getting? Milestone completion row. This one, we don't have, well, we have value over there. So we don't even need to. Now it's already separated for us. So what we can do here is, we don't even need to do that anymore. We can just do combine text. We can do milestone value and then just put an X, right? So that's another nice thing. All the heavy lifting is done in Supabase. That's why Supabase is so awesome. And what is this first one? Name and description. Milestone completion. Do we have name? Well, we have description, but what is the name supposed to be? Drink water. Okay, so we don't have the name here. We gotta get the name. So need to add habit name. All right, and so now we have the name of the habit as well. So we can display it. Let's go ahead and refresh it. Come back over here. We have habit name and we don't have any errors. Okay, let's go ahead and see. The moment of truth has arrived. Let's go see what's happening. All right, here we are. And as you can see now, this is green. Well, we should make this white. I think that should be fair. This card right here, it should be white. It's only fair. Let's see how this looks. There we go. Okay, perfect. And so now what's cool is that, let's say we have a 7-day streak. Well, if you come over here, this is automatically going to be marked as well. So let's do 7, 6, 7. Come back over here and we have a 7-day streak. And if we refresh this, guess what? This is now both of them are true. How cool is that? You know how hard it would be to do it in code, and just how annoying when you can just do all of this in Supabase. I think it's amazing. I think Supabase is absolutely amazing. Now, there's still a couple of features that we need to do. One thing that I want to do is the ability to switch between looking at streaks and looking at just times, right? So if you take a look at this app over here, we have a streak of 1. Right? We have this, a streak of 2 or a streak of 3. But we do have 5 times that we have done it, right? We have 5 days that we have completed. So the idea is maybe they want to look at streaks, or maybe they want to look at the times they've done it. So this is another feature that I want to add. And if you just click on this, it will switch back to the other format. Okay. And so first, because this is going to be done on a habit level, I want to create another field here, another column that will store whether this is a streak or, times, something like this. So we can do like streak, or like, whatever we want to call it. It's going to say count type, and then we can specify where, streak or times, right? Yeah, I did it 5 times. I have a streak of 5 days. So it's going to be like either maybe S or T, streak or times. And so we are going to say, or let's just make it simpler. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say this is text, and then we can define it. Okay. All right. So now we have this count type, and here I'm just going to define them as streaks. All right. So remember, either S or T. Okay. So both of these are streaks, but we'll be able to switch it here. Now, I also want to make sure that this habit streaks where we are, displaying it, I want to make sure that it's also displaying times. So times in the last 7 days or something like that. Okay. And let's go ahead and modify this. I'm going to go ahead and modify this right here. Open in SQL editor. I'm going to say add a field that will display the number of times a particular habit was done. Let's go ahead and see if this works. All right, let's see if this works. I'm going to create a new snippet here, paste it in there. I'm going to drop view public habit streaks, and let's see if this. All right, and there we go. So 3 and we have 5, which is perfect. 7, but we have 10. So it's counting some other things, right? So if I add it here, we have 8, 11. Okay, so it's counting the previous, because it's not just the last 7 days. Which is fine. Which is fine at the end of the day. And here is just this. So 6, streak of 6 and 6. Okay? Which is fine because times is everything, right? All right, so let's go ahead and refresh this. And what we can do now is if you come over here to home and you click on, what do you need to click on? This one here. And in fact, let's make it just a tad bigger. It's a little too small. And I also want to wrap this in a row, and I want to add an icon that will display interesting things right here. And this icon, let's say bold, and I'm going to make it smaller. So something like this. So this whole row is going to change, right? So if you click this, it's going to change depending on, what are we working on here, right? So this text is streaks. In fact, we don't even need a combination. We can just have streak, right? Or times done, depending on what we have. So let's go ahead and just refresh it, make sure everything works. All right, so there we have it. So this is currently streaks, but if we click on it, it's going to display times. And I'm just going to use the number sign to kind of cover that. So let's come over here. We're going to just do this. I'm just going to wrap this widget in a stack, and I'm going to duplicate this. And this row is going to be called row streaks. And this row is going to be called row times. And this is only going to be displayed if, what do we need to check habits row? Count type is equal to S. Otherwise, this is count type. I'm just going to type count type is equal to, and this icon is going to be different. I'm just going to put number. Text is going to be different. And, well, if you click on it, it's going to switch it. Right, so if you click here, we're gonna do an update on that habit, update row, matching row, habit ID, and we're gonna set fields. Needs to be the other one. And so this is the thing. You see how here we need to set it. If we just made it a Boolean, it would have been a lot easier. So I'm going to change it into a Boolean because we could have just flipped it. Here, because it's not a Boolean, we can't flip it. So yeah, you can flip it in code, or you can change it. Right, so you can go to your SQL editor, come back over here and say, what is this called? We're gonna make it a Boolean. I'm gonna say streak type. I'm just gonna say streak type. Okay, so it's gonna be true if it's a streak, false, invalid, sin. Okay, let's go ahead and make it empty. This is gonna be Boolean. Can we do a default value of true? Can we try this? What's a default value? Okay, now it works. All right, so all of these are streaks. And if we come over here, Supabase, and we refresh it, you see how it's a Boolean now. So it's going to be a lot easier to deal with it. Right? So we can say, what we can do is we can select this and flip it like this. That's how we can, and this is perfect for us. All right, so that's going to go ahead and flip it, change it, and it should automatically, show us the new data. Okay, so that's what we have here. Let's take a look at our issues. Okay, let's change our conditionals. This is going to be different now. In fact, what we can do is we don't even need a condition. We can just do streak type, and we can do false like this. A lot easier. All right, let's go ahead and reload this. See what's happening? All right, here's our app. So by default, it's showing us the streaks, right? We have a long streak here and we have this. But if we click it, it should automatically show us the time. So let's see if it's being reflected in here. Yeah, it's being reflected, but it's not being reflected here, which is okay because we can simply do it. Okay. Let's go ahead and do that. All right. So if you click it here, see, it's updating here, but it's not updating. We'll fix that. Okay, so it's updating here. And what we need to do is we need to make sure that we are refreshing the right. So we can just refresh list view and see if that works. Okay, here we are. All right, so the app's starting to kind of come together. We have this 3, which is the streak. If we do this, we have a streak of 5, streak of 4. And here, if we refresh this, we can see that this is a setup for streaking, streak tracking. Okay, and if we click here, now as you can see, we have numbers here. And if you refresh this, this is now false. Okay, now we have, 6 here and we have 10 here. So we have like 6 and another 4 before that. We need to remove this hello world. We don't really need that. Let's go ahead and remove that. What is this? We have this column here. We don't really need that. Let's go ahead and refresh it. So looks pretty good. The only thing that's left to do is to add functionality to add habits and add milestones here. Okay, and that's what we're going to be doing next. All right, so the app is starting to come together great, right? We can change this, we can add, this is automatically updates, right? And the couple of other things I want to do is I want to add the ability to add habits, and I want to add the ability to add milestones. Okay, and by the way, let's double check that this milestone works. As you can see, we have now completed this and this milestone. So let's go ahead and add the ability to add habits. So we're gonna add a button right here that's going to do it. So if you come over here, we have this app bar. We can do a button by wrapping this text, and then we can just add, and we can arrange it like this, and this is going to be a plus like this, and that's going to add our habit. So how are we going to do it? Well, the way I want to do it is I want to do it as a component. So I'm going to come over here. We're going to do another component, just do a blank component, add habit, come over here, and this is we're gonna do a column, and we're gonna do a bunch of fields. Let's do a bunch of rows, and inside the row we're gonna put, what do we need to add for the habit? So here we have the table here. We need name, description, and this is gonna be true by default. Okay, because that's something that they can change later. So name and description. Let's do a text. Let's do a text input, and let's go ahead and we'll format it in just a second. Let's go ahead and format it. Go ahead and format this outline. I like outline, and I'm gonna go ahead and give it some padding. Okay, so that looks good. Let's go ahead and wrap this in a container, or you know what? Let's go ahead and wrap it in maybe a card or something. Okay, let's go ahead and give it a border so it kind of stands out. Okay, so now it's kind of starting to come together. Let's go ahead and give this card a padding of its own. Okay, so something like this. All right, let's do name, and let's go ahead and duplicate it. Actually, duplicate the whole card. Something like this. Let's do padding. I will fix it. Name and description. We are gonna add a button. We're gonna say add habit. Make it a little bit bigger. Alrighty, so we'll kind of have to fix it a little bit so it looks a little bit cleaner. Let's see what we can do. 10, nothing. Okay, so something like this just for testing. And this is gonna add the habit. This is gonna do insert habits. We don't need this. This is gonna be our authenticated user. We still need to set up authentication. We'll do that. Name is widget state this. Description is widget state this. Streak type is, because by default it's true. And then we want to close this bottom sheet, dismiss, because it's going to be displayed as a bottom sheet. All right, so come back here. click here, bottom sheet, show, select, add habit. Let's add a background color, make it white, and that's about it. Okay, let me also double check a couple of things. We want to expand the column on the main axis, this thing here, so that it takes the maximum amount of space. That should be good. We can also center it if we want, but I don't think that's necessary. All right, let's go ahead and test it out. All right, here's our app, and as you can see, it's not displaying it correctly. It needs to be fixed. The background color is not being displayed correctly, which is interesting, but come back here, value. Did I choose the right? This is white. That's the background color. Column, it doesn't have like a constraint, right? It doesn't constrain. I mean, we can put a container here, or we can constrain it obviously here, and that's what we're gonna do. So let's say we want it to be like maybe 400 pixels. Let's go ahead and see what happens. All right, let's try this again. Okay, that looks a lot better. Okay, so just, we should probably make it a little bit less. 300, I think, would be good. Let's go ahead and refresh that. And the reason we have to set it is because none of the other ones have a constraint, right? We're not constraining it. All right, here we are. And there it is. Looks pretty good. We just need to fix this alignment, but I think it should work. Okay, so let's say name is study, right? So I want to put study every day, and as you can see, it automatically adds it, refreshes this whole thing, and we see it here. And here we can do all this, and we can come back here and we can refresh it, and we have this habit, and we also have habit entries, right? This is habit 3. We have 3 entries. We can click here, that flips it, and so now even without we're seeing 5. So streak would be 4, but times is 5. Now, one thing that we said what we're going to do, but we haven't done yet, is we haven't turned on authentication yet, because this is obviously an app that needs the user to be authenticated. Because, like, for instance, with these habits, remember, we have a filter that's set on a specific user. So that needs to be the authenticated user. So let's go ahead and do authentication right now. Just search here, enable authentication, Supabase, and now we need to create these 2 pages. So the login page is home. The entry page is going to be our login page. So we need to create typically 2 pages, a login page and like a profile page where they can see their login information, stuff like that. So let's go ahead and do that right now. And for the login page, we can simply click here, and we're going to be greeted with a lot of templates that we can choose. So you can pick a template that you like the best. Let's say this one. I'm going to say login. All right, here's our login page. And for the profile page, we'll do the same thing. Come over here, and you want to select settings. And now you have a bunch of profile pages. So which one you like best? Let's say this one. Okay, it's going to say profile here. Now, the login page is going to be set up in the authentication. So we're going to come as the entry page. Okay, so this part is complete. And now we have a bunch of errors because it's using all of these other providers. We're going to just disable it. We're going to remove this just to keep things simple. And so I'm going to just remove this. All right, let's see. And we should not have, yeah, we don't have any errors. Now, for the profile page, it's a good idea to, well, we have to configure this page, but even before that, we want this page to appear, and that's why we need to make sure this page has, it's going to appear in the nav bar. So I'm going to go ahead and here, type profile. So now it's in the nav bar. The user can always come over here. So what I want to do is, I want to display at least their email, okay? Because we're not storing name and profile or anything like that, but the email we are storing, right? So if you come over here, you have email. And so at least we're gonna see their email, okay? And the name, if you wanna store the name, you need to create another table here, like a profiles table or like a users table, and link it to the original table, okay? I've done that in past videos. I wanna skip this step because I've done it so many other times. So if you've seen my past videos, you've probably seen me do it. All right, so this is good. Now what we can do is we want to change the parts where we are filtering by this arbitrary user to filter by the authenticated user. So user ID, and I think it was also done in some other places. Maybe here. No, this is just by that ID. let's take a look. Let's go through all of these queries, right, where you can denote it by this database icon here. Okay, so this is user ID. Cart, what's cart doing? Cart is fine. This list view is fine. Milestones, that's what we need. We need milestones. I'm pretty sure, yeah. So, and then we can just type user ID, select it right here, and we're good to go. Okay, so now let's go ahead and restart a session, and it's telling us errors, but we don't have any errors. Okay, so let's go ahead and do it from here. All right, so here's our app, and as you can see, we're now greeted with a login page. So I'm gonna go ahead and log in with the account that I initially created in our Supabase database. All right, so here I am logged in, and now it's pulling up my habits that are linked to me, right? So as you can see, these habits right here, user ID, and that's me. And if I go over here, we have my milestones as well. Okay. And I can also, if I want to change it, now we have 6, we have 7, and now I have this milestone completed here. Okay. So now we have authentication. And if I go over here, we have our profile page, and as you can see, I'm just displaying my email just to show you that I'm logged in as this user right here. Next, I want to add the ability to delete a habit. Okay, so how, just like how we can add a habit, I want to add an ability to delete a habit. I'm just going to make it really, really simple. So we have this card, we have this column right here. If we expand it, we have a row and we have 2 columns. And so what we can do is we can wrap it in a row, and then now we have this column, we can just add another column. Okay, so now we have this here. I'm going to expand this all the way, and this thing is where we are going to add our features. So like deleting, maybe editing, stuff like that. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an icon button right here, and I'm going to make it I'm going to remove this fill color, and I am going to say the icon color is going to be black just to keep things simple, and this is delete. So like this, just to keep things simple. Okay, so now we have this delete. Let's go ahead and, well, yeah, so let's go ahead and give it a little bit of padding on the right side. I think 20, maybe 20 is too much. Let's give it, what does this have? This doesn't have any padding. I'm going to do 10. I think 10 is the right amount. So we have this. This is going to delete it. I'm going to add an action, delete row, and we're just going to delete habits by matching them on the habit ID equals to habits ID. Okay, and that's it. And I also want to refresh database request. We want to refresh list view 1, I believe. It's going to be, I think it's list view 1. So that's going to delete it. Let's go ahead and run it and see if it works. All right, I'm going to go ahead and log in. All right, so we have this. So let's go ahead and delete this one. So if I come over here, we have 3 habits, and I want to delete this one, this test 3. Click over here and it's gone. Okay, I want to add some functionality to milestones. So I want to add the ability to add a milestone, and then we'll do the ability to delete a milestone. So let's go ahead and do add right now. We're going to wrap this in a row. I'm going to add an icon button. We're going to space them out, and let's go ahead and change something. This is going to be add, and when we are going to be adding it, it's gonna pop up it's gonna display a component. So I'm going to duplicate this, and I'm going to say add. Okay, and we are going to display. So when we are creating a component, what do we want to add? Well, first we need to add the habit ID, right? Because it needs to be associated with a habit. We have this, and we have the description, right? That's it. That's pretty much it. So 3 fields. And so this add milestone, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this type. Description is description. And I'm going to add another row on top that's going to display all the habits that we want to associate with this milestone. Okay. So I'm going to duplicate this row card. It's 2 cards, so we need to duplicate this card right here. Gonna expand it a little bit, and this is going to be habit. And the idea is we're gonna display all the habits, and they'll be able to add a milestone. They're gonna see the name of the habit, but it's gonna select the habit ID. Okay, so this is going to be a drop down right here, and we are gonna load this with habits. Okay, so I'm gonna come over here, I'm gonna do a query, habits, list of rows. I'm gonna filter them by the user ID. Okay, so now this is filtered. We can also sort them by what do we want to sort them? By name. Let's do it by name. Name, we want the increasing order, so A to Z. And now what we're gonna do is we are going to display the options, right? So we want labels and options. Options are gonna be the IDs because that's what we care about ultimately, and the labels are going to be the name. So we're going to come over here, we're going to select this, we're going to map, we're going to select what is this label, so we're going to do name, and over here we're going to do IDs, map, and we're going to do IDs, current, because it wants a list of strings. And what is ID? ID is not a string. Is that list of strings? Okay, so we want ID. So what we need to do is we need to convert it into a string. Okay, so, and we can do that by selecting this, changing that there, then select this map, and then I'm going to select ID. All right, so we have the values, which are IDs. We have the labels that are names, and hint text select. Okay, and this is going to say, that's going to say add milestone, and now we need to make sure it does it correctly. This is going to insert row into milestones, and we're going to do this again. Habit ID, let's go ahead and do it. Let's go ahead and say input habit ID, milestone type, and this is M description. All right, let's come over here. Habit ID, we're going to select this, and widget state, habit ID, milestone type, widget state, M type, and description, you can just type DESC description. All right. So we have that, and then it just dismisses itself. All right, so we have all this. It looks good. We need to test it out, but there's a couple things that I want to do. When we go to milestone, this thing now needs to make sure that this icon button is show bottom sheet. Add milestone. We want the background color to be white. No, that's not white. This is white. And we're going to set a width of 400 pixels, and that's it. So what do we have? An issue here. Initially selected value. Initially. Where is our initially selected? Do we have an initially? Is it this? Is it our hint text? Initially selected value. Initial configuration. Okay, so now we have the value selected. If I put something here, okay. So now this is good. All I had to do was change this around, add something and delete something, and now this is fine because we don't have an initially set value, right? This is just hint text. There's nothing selected. Okay, let's go ahead and rebuild this and see what's going on. All right, let's go into milestone. So here we are. And we can add a milestone. There are habits. Let's say running. I have, what do I have? I have all of these for running. So let's do reading. And type, we need to delete this and we need to make sure they understand. So we're going to select a habit. Let's say I want to read 7, days in a row. So I'm going to do 7D, and description is read 7 days in a row. Okay, let's add this. And we added the milestone. Except why does it say running? 1. Did I select the right one? Let me try that again. Let's go ahead and remove this. Did I select the right one? I want reading. I think I selected the right one. 7D, 7 days in a row, read 25 minutes for 7 days in a row. Okay, there it is. So now we have a new habit that wasn't done, right? Because obviously a new milestone here that was not completed. Read 25 minutes for 7 days in a row. So that looks good. I just need to fix this input, this hint text. We need to delete that, and description, we also need to delete that. And actually for this, we can do something like 7D for 7 days in a row, something like this. So we're giving him a hint. So let's go ahead and refresh that. Let me go ahead and delete that so we can try it again. All right, here we are. And these are our milestones, right? And so what I'm going to do is I am going to add a milestone, and we're going to test it out. So let's say I'm going to click here, and I'm going to select reading. Okay, so let's say I want 7 days, 100 pages for 7 days in a row. Okay, I added a milestone. We haven't done it, right? It hasn't been completed yet. And I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna go ahead and do it. So first I want to check if it's here, and I'm gonna say 7 days. Okay, come back over here, and guess what? It's here. How cool is that? That is pretty cool. Okay. One thing that I want to do is I want to maybe make this text a little bit smaller so that it doesn't push this up. Okay. Something really quick. Let's go ahead and make habit name. Let's make it a little bit small. This is 12 over here. Let's see. This is the row. Okay, so it's in that container over here. That's part of the grid view. We have this container. Okay, so let's go ahead and refresh that, see how it looks. All right, so let's take a look. And one thing that we can do, we can limit the number of characters. Okay, we can, so it doesn't push this up, just like as a simple fix. So let's say, I don't know, 25. Let's do 25 characters, something like this. We can do an ellipsis. Okay, let's see how that looks. Just so that it looks better. Okay, and there you have it. Read 100 pages for 7 days. Now it's always gonna be, it's gonna look good because this thing was pushing it up. And just as a simple fix, there we have it, okay? And the next thing that I wanna do is I wanna get it to delete a milestone, right? So you might want to delete a milestone as well. So we have this grid view, we have a container inside, and let's say we now wanna delete a milestone. So how we're gonna be doing it? Well, we need to add a way to delete it. So we have this column. What I can do is I can add an icon button just below it so we can delete it. That's going to push it up. We can make it smaller. Let's make it a little bit smaller. Let's say 15. That's the icon size, button size. I like to make it double, maybe something like this. Or what we can do, there's a couple of other things that we can do. One other thing that we can do is we can have it here with this on the same line. So what I can do is I can do I'm going to paste this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do something space. And so now it's going to say delete. And if they click on it, we can delete it. So that's one option that we can do, right? And so what I'm going to come over here, I'm going to do an action. I'm going to say delete row from milestones, and we're going to add a filter, and that's going to be our milestone ID. That's the milestone that we're looking at, and you want to refresh this. See, we have a couple of issues. No, we don't have any issue. Okay, let's go ahead and rebuild our app. All right, here we are. And here we are. So we can delete it. So you can see it says delete over here. So let's say I want to delete this, and it's gone. Okay, if I come back over here, it refreshes and it's gone. And there you have it. Very, very simple, easy peasy, but really the power here is those SQL queries, right? All of this, it's all SQL. I mean, it's a lot of people, I think the majority of people will think about doing this in the app using custom functions, custom actions, but you can do all of this with Supabase and much more, and especially this, right? Marking this, right? So we have this running 7 days in a row, right? So if I remove that, now it's 5 days in a row, it's gone. How cool is that? That's really, really awesome. I think a lot of you might not have realized that this is possible, but it is. It's more than possible. All right, so this is our app. There's still some things to do, like push notifications, a couple of other features, and that is something that I might do in an upcoming video as an upgrade, as a version 2.0. So if you guys want to see me add more features, definitely join our amazing Patreon community and leave a comment below. And by the way, speaking of our amazing Patreon community, this entire app, right, you'll be able to get access to it in our amazing Patreon community. And I know a lot of you are thinking, well, James, I saw you build the app, everything is out there. And it's true, everything is out there, everything is here, but you're going to gain so much more value. You're going to learn so much more when you have this app right in front of you, when you clone this app, when you play with this app, when you take a look at the queries, when you take a look at our grid view. And by the way, I'm also going to include all the schema here. So you'll see all the views, all the tables, everything. All of this is going to be included as part of, when you join our amazing Patreon community. And that's not all, right? You're not only going to get access to this app, you're going to get access to all my library of apps that I've done on this channel. So if you see an app from last week, last month, 2 weeks ago, etc., it's on my Patreon. You're going to get access to it, and you're going to get access to past apps. You're going to get access to future apps. You're going to get access to my no-code podcast where I create weekly videos talking about different things that I'm working on, asking you guys questions, trying to help you out. So you're going to get a lot more value as a member of our amazing Patreon community. And really, you guys make all of this possible. You guys make this channel possible. You guys make all of these tutorials possible. And so a big thank you to all of you. And also, if you're thinking about joining, I guarantee you're going to absolutely love it. We have an amazing community. And so click the first link in the description below to join our amazing Patreon community. And by the way, if you want to get like really deep knowledge of FlutterFlow, deep knowledge of Supabase, and join our Discord chats and all of that, we're having a special sale, a Black Friday sale on our two trainings, Mastering FlutterFlow and Mastering Supabase. Take a look at the links in the description below the video and take advantage of the amazing discount that I rarely, if ever, do. That's going to grant you access to an amazing training and access to our amazing Discord chats where you can ask all kinds of questions about all kinds of issues having to do with the training material or pretty much anything else. A problem with your app, we're going to try to help you out to the best of our ability. I'm there. We have some amazing community members that are there as well. So take a look at our Patreon subscription, as well as access to our trainings that you can get now with an amazing Black Friday discount that you're going to be seeing in the description below the video.